Hello and welcome to another video. So today I want to talk to you about a problem that developed with my Creality Ender-5-Pro, where it stopped reading the SD card completely. And I just want to take you on a journey of what happened between me and Creality and what they've done to fix it. So basically they sent me a new motherboard after a bit of to and fro over emails, because technically, I mean, the printer's not that old. I've had it for 15 months. I've not done a lot of printing on it. All of it's been on the SD card, but again, by no means sort of industrial printing, nothing bigger than, say, a 12 to 15 hour print. So it was just, to me, it was a bit unacceptable that it had gone in that time, stopped reading, and the only solution was to replace the motherboard. So this led me on to thinking that it'd be good to put a video together to show you that it's not that scary opening up your 3D printer and making any modifications or repairs that you might want to do to either improve or fix your printer. So for instance, on my original Anycubic i3 Mega, so far I've replaced the stepper motors to make the whole thing just run a bit better and quieter. I've replaced the hot end due to a blockage, and I've even fitted a new fan to the filament feeder because the servo was getting really hot. So I took a fan out of an old PC and just wired it into the spare port on the power supply units. So again, it was all very straightforward, very simple. So today I want to take you through the repair to the motherboard. Thank you very much. Here is me highlighting the problem. So it basically won't read an SD card. So I take an SD card that I'd lying around. Admittedly, it's quite big, 64 gig. But this is the third card I tried. So by this point, there's definitely an issue with the motherboard, because I've checked all the connectors, they're nice and clean. There is a file on there that's under 16 characters long in terms of the file name, so that ticks all the boxes. And as you can see here, it still doesn't read it. No TF card, as they call it, and no files to read. So here we have a problem. So here we are. So as I mentioned, Creality were pretty good in the end about it. I had to submit the serial number of the machine and the invoice. I bought it actually from a local supplier in England, and they did not want to honour the warranty, saying that as soon as it went over 12 months, that's it, it's not under warranty anymore, and I have to buy a new motherboard. I mean, granted, they're not that expensive. There was about, I think, £31–32 for a new motherboard, but for me it was the principle of it. It's like it's barely been used and it's not that much over the warranty. So I would argue that, you know, the quality of the product is not what it should be. And eventually Creality conceded, and they sent this all the way from China. So we're going to open it up and see what we've got. So here we go. As you can see, not very big. Well packaged. Got the instructions here, which show all the plugs and the wiring, and that's just the various models. So we're going to have to follow this to make sure we plug in the correct wires into the correct places, because there are a lot of connections. So let's see the board itself. Here we go, in the static bag. There isn't much to it, as you can see here. Let's pull this out. And here we go. So there is the offending article, this SD card reader. But we're going to have to make all the connections up here. This one here, this one here. This one I think is to the main screen, the main motherboard. So that's connected on the ribbon cable. This I'm assuming is all power lines, and then connections down here. I'm assuming. Oh, they're actually labelled. What's that? Y, Z, E, and oh, X on the end there. Yep. But we'll find out what they are when we go to replace them. So we're going to have to do this very carefully and methodically. So let's get the printer on the table. So here we are. I've got the printer on the table. Pressing down. Just to make sure you hold the beds, because it's going to sorry, not the bed, the top carriage, because it will slide to the front. So just prevent that from hitting down below. And I've got the motherboard so that it's to the bottom of the frame as opposed to working up here in the sky. And luckily enough, you don't have to hunt around, because these are some Allen key head screws in there. But luckily enough, with most printers nowadays, you get a little bag of tools save you hunting around for the right size. And it's this one that we need. So we're going to start by removing the 4 panel screws. Dirt the fan has actually picked up. And there's the board. So just zooming on a few things here. So you got all this fluff to clear out. There's the board to replace. So as you can see, the SD card, it's actually still in it. I need to take that out. And then we've got the power supply unit feeding to the outlet socket. So let's take a moment to study this and we'll start unplugging some wires. So we'll start by removing this horribleness from here. It is just fluff and hair and okay. Nice load of fluff. And now we can just unplug this. So just plugged in here, you can just about see it if I move these wires out of the way. There. Okay, let's get a better look at this. So just in fact, let's reference this on the new board too, so we can actually see it. So side by side, there's the boards, and it looks like it's this top connector there that is connecting the fan. Yep, the one that's right next to the green blocks. So let's get that unplugged. So after a fair bit of tugging on this wire, I've realised they're all glued in. So as you can see, look at all that glue there on the back of the connectors for the power. And then a big blob of glue there. And lots of glue all over the place. So these are kind of semi-permanent connections if that's the case. So I know why they've used the glue obviously, so it doesn't come off in shipping and that kind of thing, so you minimise problems. But it just means you get a bit of an issue when you're trying to replace stuff like today. So this is going to be extra work that I didn't really account for. So let's try and scrape a bit of glue off. So I'll use these long nose pliers and just literally pull the glue out of all the places where it's stopping the wires from coming out basically. So I'll come back when I've pulled all these off. So like this basically. So right, I'll be back. Okay, so welcome back. There's a nice little pile of glue that I managed to pull off all of the connectors. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the glue was kind of holding the wires into the connector itself, but they've obviously put the glue on after the board was installed because it did go over the plugs a little bit, kind of holding them in. Because as I was pulling some of the glue, the whole plug came away from the socket, so which is good because it means that none of them are stuck in. The hardest one was pulling the glue off the power wires. Now, as you can see there, it's exposed a little bit of the wire there, so either that's come off with the glue, which I can't see in the pile of glue, so it may have been bad in the first place. So I might repair that just either with a bit of tape or just cutting the wire down to that point. We'll see how short it is when I get the board out. So okay, well, one other thing I want to mention is these two white connectors here appear to be exactly the same in terms of the cables themselves, so no labels on them. So I'm gonna get this marker pen and just mark one of them so I know which one they connect into. So at the moment I don't know what these wires are, so I'm just going to make sure they go into the correct connectors again. So I'm going to go around and unplug all the ones that are just on plugs, and then we'll get a screwdriver to undo the terminal block ones. Okay, here we are, progress. So all of the push-on wires are off. So the only thing I've left to do is take out the block connector one. So I've got a decent sized flathead screwdriver that should fit in there. Yes, it does. And okay, we're starting unscrewing these wires. But again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark up where the ones go. Because obviously, as you can see, a lot of the red cables are just red cables. So I can't see making that much difference, to be entirely honest, unless the voltage is regulated for certain parts of it, because this is obviously the main one coming in here into the actual board itself, so that's board power, and then it's distributed, I guess, to the various parts of the board via all those. So we've got the hot end, all the servos, the bed, all that kind of jiggery pokery. So yeah, what I might do is just take a few photographs so I can see which bits go where. So right, and once again I shall see you on the other side. Okay, so no turning back now. The board is stripped completely. So all that remains to do now is to actually get the board out. So it's held in place by these, again, those small Allen key screws, which I think just screw straight into this metal base. So the thread will be cut into the frame like that, so that it doesn't require a nut on the other side. The only downside being that if the thread goes, if you thread it, then that's it. You can't rethread it because the hole will be bigger, which then we need a bigger screw, and you're in a whole world of problems. So my advice is just be very, very careful, as you normally would do. Okay, right, let's get this board out. You want to hear that crack at the beginning, that's good. That means you are right at the end of the thread. So again, more important when kind of tightening them up, that you don't want to go a little bit too far. Okay, so these screws are slightly smaller than the ones that hold the case in. So that's the case screw. And that is, I mean, okay, you can't see them in my hands, but yeah, there you go, just take it from here, they're smaller. So I'm going to keep these separate, like that. So it seems there are 4 holding this board in, and yeah, there's that snap again. Nice to hear. And lovely, look at that, perfect. Okay, let's get the rest of these out. You can already feel the board moving, so here we go, that's it, the board is free. So, let's take it out, and there we go, there we have it. So, here's the offending article. So what I was also thinking is, if I can get an SD card reader just as a separate component, I might be able to desolder this and fix it. Because I notice it's a little bit different. The layout is slightly different. So if we just compare them here, if you look particularly down this back side of the SD card, you'll notice we've got this big capacitor here, whereas on the new one it doesn't exist. You've got all these tiny little components down here, so this one would be a lot more of a nightmare to remove, because you'd have to do some really fine tip solder work to get these connectors on without disturbing any of these. So that's going to be really, really tough if it was this board I was replacing the SD card reader on. But as it happens to be this one, if you look, there's quite a bit of room around all of that. So you have to, you know, you don't have to be as careful, I would say. So this I'd be more confident about having a go at. Bearing in mind there's nothing on the other side to burn through. So yeah, I might actually have a go at that just to see how difficult it would be. Right, okay, so we're going to screw the new board in. In fact, just before we do go ahead and screw the new board in, let's actually compare old to new. So this being the old board here, and this being the new one here. So already I noticed that the new one has this fuse attached on here, whereas the old one doesn't have it. Looks like they've replaced this inductor, I want to say, with that particular one there. I mean, that could just be a component update for the manufacturers themselves. So yeah, the board has changed ever so slightly for whatever reason. They've made those changes, and we seem to have an extra connector here, so that's slightly worrying. 2 connectors there and only one there, so hopefully it's straightforward enough to know that the top one, I would say, I'm going to connect in just because of the position of it, but we shall see. Okay, let's get the new one in. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to put a screw into the hole on the board here. Then I'm going to get the Allen key and just hold it in place like that, so that I can go in here, find the hole. I'm just going to screw it in a little tiny bit, because we need to make sure that it lines up first of all. And I realise already I've made a mistake because I can't get those card readers past the lip. So I'm going to undo this again, just take it out and just reseat it from that side in first. So here we go, I can see them locating now, and here we go. Right, that is the board pretty much sitting where it needs to be. Right, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of the screws just in for now. Now the daunting bit, plugging all the wires back in. Okay, so I'm loosening the strain gauge on the inside, so here we go, you can see it now, and get that turned in. I mean, I could actually glue all those bits up like they were from the manufacturer, because I do have a glue gun, but I just think it's probably going to be unnecessary, because I got a funny feeling that was done for manufacture. I'm just noticing a lot of fluff in here too. So this is good to get this stuff out, because this is what causes electronics to overheat. A lot of times there's just a build-up of fluff and debris over the cooling fins and the cooling fan and that kind of thing. And there seems to be a lot of hair stuck in this one as well. Get that out, there we go. So yeah, biggest electronics killer is fluff. If you've ever noticed, opened up a PC, you'd see massive clumps of fluff around any grills and things like that. So it is good to get the hoover in there every now and again. Clean that out. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Right, free from distractions, let's get on with this. So you can't see this, but I'm actually wearing a head torch for this. There you go. Just makes things a little bit easier. You direct the light exactly where you want it. So yeah, I recommend one of these. Very cheap. We look like an idiot, but it's not about that, is it? Could just strip that back, or even just cover it with a bit of insulating tape. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that just for safety's sake. I'm going to get a bit of tape and just cover over this exposed bit of wire here, just in case it arcs on the casing or anything like that. Right, okay, back in a moment. Okay, so I didn't have any red insulating tape, just all blue. So but that'll do. It's completely covered now. So now you can get it back in. That's where it needs to be. So it's open up all of the terminals. Get this first one done. So the thick red and then the thick black. Okay, right, and we get the rest of the wires in. Okay, I'm happy with that. See if the wire's happy. The wire is happy. Right, just go around pinching them all up. Oh, that was loose. Not good actually, I'm sure I did that one not quite tight. Not that one. Okay, they're all in. Just tug on each of them gently. Yep. 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 Oh, yep. 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 And yep. Okay. That's one bit done. Now the next should be fairly straightforward because they're all labelled. So I think I'm going to start with just getting all of that side in because that's an easy one. So they're all for that side. Let's put you over there. You're all for this side. Yeah, so you're all the same size apart from that one. So you don't go over this side, I'm sure. In fact, you might there. So yeah, we should have 4. I believe it's this 4 here. So let's start with the X, which is labelled X. So let's get that in. So they can only go in one way, and you'll notice there's 2. See the 2 channels on there. They correspond to. You might not be able to see them, but there's 2 notches on there, so I know that it goes in that way around. There we go, as easy as that. That's the X, and now I'm looking for Y. So here we go, Y, and you go that way around. Interestingly enough, they're reversed on this way. I thought so, because I'm having to twist the wires, so yeah. So if we look at the old board, the notches are on that side, but on this board, the notches are this side. So we're seeing a few differences already. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't cause any issues. What are we on next? Hopefully Z. No, that's E. Where are you, Z? There you are, that's Z. Lots of glue stuck on this one still. More glue for the pile. And a few in there. And then E. Finally, you go in there. Okay. Nearly there. What is next? So the fan is next. That went up on that little top connector. Okay. So that's not fitting. So is it different? Let's have a look here. Indeed it is. Yeah, that is different. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's plug the ones in we know we can. So this one that goes off to the screen and controller. One goes in there. So what do we have left? Y. X. Z. Okay, well I can see where those go. They're quite clearly labelled. Yeah, we've got TH, TB, Z, Y, X. Okay, so 3 left. Oh no, 4 left, sorry. Right, so that is it as far as all the wires plugged in. So I'm going to consult the document that we got with the board just to make sure that we are connecting in the correct place. Okay, so looking at the manual, it does say, so these are the 2 ports we were questioning as to why they weren't on the old board. So it's those 2 there, the blue and yellow and the red and the black. So it does say fan, and quite clearly the red and black one goes to this fan here. So I'm just assuming that that is the other fan, which is up on the extruder. But we do have extra ports that were not on the older board. So first of all, we've got that really large one there, and then the other smaller one there, which if you look on the old board, they don't exist. So we'd be looking at this one here, and this kind of gap here where the new one is. So I couldn't tell you what those ones are for. In fact, let's have a look at the manual, it might give us a clue. So this one says, so that's the extra preset port there, so I'm not sure what that is. And then this one says BL touch optional port. Okay, well if it's optional, we can forget about it, because I don't think we can plug anything into it. So it's this preset port here, which no idea what that is. But I've run out of wires, so I'm gonna call this a win and let's get it sealed back up again. So just thinking about these board differences a little more, looking at the product manual that came with it, it lists all of these different types of printers. But mine says version 4.22, which is for several printers, as you can see there. So I'm just assuming that they make a generic board, and then each of those printers can make use of those extra ports if you have those options, obviously. So that's what I'm going to run with for now, just so it enables us to move forward, because I'm pretty confident that is the case. So let's get this back sealed up. Yeah, this one is awkward to say the least. So I'm going to hold it in place with pliers, trusty pliers. Nope, that doesn't work. Not so trusty after all. In fact, there we go, I've just found the, so the glue did rip off that piece of rubber on that red wire. So here we go, I've just found it, look at that. That's how strong that glue was, so I'm glad I did tape it up now. Back to how it was. So, moment of truth, I'm going to put it in place, stick an SD card in. If it reads it, we've won. Okay, give it a go. Okay, so the printer is back in its little spot. I'm not going to bother putting the filament on yet, so let's just first of all see if it fires up. Okay, that's good. Fans come on, fans have come on. Ooh, that's a bit different. Oops, where's that? Oh, okay. So, ever so slightly different display, so I don't notice this thing in the top corner before. The font's a bit slightly different. Ender-5-Pro ready. Okay, so here we go. SD card into the slot. So nothing's changed with the orientation, it still goes upside down. Oh, that's good. That says card inserted. Let's go to the menu. Huh. No TF card. Okay, so they call SD card a TF card. Oh, that's a bit strange. So, card inserted, quite clearly recognising it. No TF card. Yeah, the saga is still not over. So, right, we're a little bit more investigating, and I might bring you back when this is resolved. But thanks for watching up to this point, and I'll see you when it's fixed. Hi, that was a couple of weeks ago. So some of you may notice the temperature readings on the display were a little bit off for the nozzle and the bed in comparison to each other. And I'd like to say, yes, you were correct, those that spotted it. So as well as dealing with the SD card problem, once I put it all back together again, the alarm was going off on the hot end, saying it reached too high a temperature, and it started to shut off and go back down again. And after that, I realised I'd actually mixed up the two wires going into the terminal block connectors between the hotbed and the nozzle. So luckily enough, it wasn't too much of an issue because there's the built-in failsafe on the board. When the bed reaches too high temperature, the alarm goes off and everything shuts back down again. So I kind of noticed it at first, but I was a bit distracted with the SD card, that the bed temp was rushing a lot higher than I have it set to. So I normally have it around about 60, 65, something like that. And on the preset that comes on the board, it's certainly not set to maximum because it can reach 110. So yeah, so the bed temperature was just going crazy, and it was shutting off. So yeah, I realized that I'd mixed those two up. So what I did was I consulted back to the trusty diagram again, then checked back on the wires, and sure enough, I'd mixed the two up. So I just thought I'd mention it here, just make sure you get those correct. It's very important to read the board labels, especially when they make changes to the board from one to the other. As you saw in the video, there were quite a few differences from this board to the next, so just prepare yourself. And identify your wires, as I said. So if yours also has a lot of glue around the connectors, just be very, very careful, because again, as you saw, the glue ripped off some of the rubber around one of the power cables. So again, important to insulate that, and get it back to safety once you're using it, because that's the last thing you need. There's not much room on those boards, so if something does touch, there's a very good chance it could ground or short. So just be careful with that. Careful with the screw threads. As I said, the threads were in the metal frame, and if you go beyond the thread and you actually thread it, then there's no coming back from that, unless you want to put a nut on the other side of it, because otherwise you're left with stripping the hole with a slightly bigger thread. But then obviously you've got the holes on the circuit board to have to worry about as well. They'd need bigger holes as well, and the last thing you want to do is drill bigger holes into the circuit board, because you might be cutting into the track wires. Track lines. So yeah, don't do any of that. So be very, very careful with the positive and negative terminals. Again, consult the board. They are labeled up very clearly with the kind of plus. If you can just see around here, you'll see the big pluses on the board there. So again, pay attention to those. And finally, when you're putting the casing back together again, don't trap any of the wires. So there are all the safety things that I just wanted to point out that I kind of came across in my video. Some obviously I got away with, but others could have been more fatal. I mean, the worst you can do is blow the board, but again, it's just hassle that you don't have to deal with. You know, it's problematic. So the other thing, following on from that, so the issue was the SD card wouldn't read. So I finally got it to read, and it turned out that I'd kind of messed up and corrupted two cards in the process of trying to get it to read on the old board. So I ordered a new card, 8 gig, just thought, you know, nice happy medium, not too big, not too small. Made sure I had a file name on there that was less than 16 characters, and sure enough, it fired up and it read the card. So I might have some footage of that for you. Next, I want to mention, in order to prevent wear and tear on your SD card, you can get these things called SD card extenders. So basically that end goes into the SD card reader, then you've got this end that actually you plug your SD card into, and the idea being that, you know, if you wear this out, then you just buy another one of these, because you're not constantly plugging and unplugging the end that goes into the board. And finally, I did also mention that I might have a go at replacing this thing, and I went ahead and ordered some online, so they come as a component, as you can see here, in a bag of several. So yes, I might have a go at that too, just as a separate project, just to see if I can do it basically. And I've got a spare board. I mean, okay, it's a worse board because they have made improvements for the new board, but either way, you know, it's nice to have a kind of spare just in case in emergency. So that's that. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this interesting, informative, as well as giving you the kind of courage to go through and do it yourself, or use this as a preview to see what is in there before you actually open up your own. So yeah, so it was fun for me. I managed to solve a problem, and I'm very happy that I'm back in the printing game. So once again, thank you very much. Bye bye.